Okay, hi everybody, my name is Boris. Today I'm going to talk to you about a little project that I did recently that I think is pretty fun. I called it HuggingTweets because it's using like a hugging face and Twitter. So the idea is basically to be able to generate tweets using Hugging Face. And I'm going to show you quickly the library, but very quickly who I am. I graduated from France and a school in Brazil. And I studied, my background was mainly related to math, science, engineering, computer science. I was actually before working for the energy industry, so something totally unrelated. And something that's pretty cool, I think, about machine learning in general, and probably a lot of you are in the same case, is we've been able to learn ourselves with all the resources online. So I did a lot of the Coursera, Udacity, and all kind of public channels. And then I was able to learn a bit more by reading the publications that interest me and then finally doing my own projects. So I've been involved doing some kind of AI machine learning projects with weights and biases now for a little while, and started with a competition about colorizing. And I've been very lucky to work with them because I've been able to do a lot of really cool projects. So I'm excited to show you the one that I'm doing today. So quickly, what is HuggingTweets? So the idea is basically you have a user that you choose with your handle. So for people you should recognize it, it's Andrej Karpathy, was like who's now the director of AI at Tesla and does a lot of really cool stuff. Then what you want to do, you want to create Hugging Face model with it and train it by downloading all the data from Andrej Karpathy and optimize it, fine-tune the model on that. Then the idea is you just give an input sentence. So you just give a start. So for example, I put, I don't like, and this is what you put. I think that tweet is pretty amazing because like I let you read it, but it's like, I don't like this. 9:20 a.m. Forget this little low code and preprocessor optimization, even if it's neat for top level projects. 9:27 a.m. other useful code examples. It's not kind of base code. 9:37 a.m. Python drawing dog like crazy. Restarts regular web browsing. 9:46 a.m. okay, I don't mind. Maybe I should try that out. I'll investigate it. 10 a.m. I think I should try Shimegitsu in Gear page or the minimalist website if you're after 10 results. Also maybe Google ImageNet on Yelp instead. 10:05 looking forward to watching it talk. That's like all really crazy and like impossible to understand, but I feel like it's something that Andrej Karpathy could actually have said. So it's kind of fun to see that happening. So now I'm going to show you quickly how it works. So what is Hugging Face? For the people who don't know it, honestly, they have a really, really cool documentation. I would recommend to just go on their website. The first thing I do when I want to learn about something, I just go on their website and I go on the docs and I just read all of it. And some people approach it a bit differently, but I think their documentation is really, really interesting and really well done. So I'm going to summarize it really quickly in a few words. Basically, they have a library that's used in Python that's used for natural language processing, understanding, and generation. And they provide you some tokenizers to process some text data. So typically, when you train a model, you won't be able to input directly the text. You could convert it into some direct input, like character by character, sentence by sentence. But typically now there's more advanced tokenizer that does something a bit more complex and that give you much better results. They have a lot of pre-trained models in PyTorch and TensorFlow. They also let you convert from one to the other, which is pretty cool because some people like to develop in PyTorch, but maybe they use TensorFlow as production models. And then something that's really interesting, actually, I'm going back to their website. I recommend really that for most of the tasks, what you do, they have an examples page. And basically on that page, they created scripts that can solve most of the problems you will want. If they don't solve it directly, which really, they're applicable to a lot of different tasks. But if they don't solve it directly, you just choose whatever is the most common, you look at it. They're really well written, really clean. You have arguments if you want to do gradient distribution, gradient accumulation. You kind of do have precision training just by having like command lines, and they're really, really well done. So I would definitely recommend you to look at them. And the other thing that's nice, you can basically go as deep as you want. If you want to create your own custom models, complex pipeline, I'll let you do that. So you're as free to directly use it with pre-trained model, not fine-tune anything at all, or like going into more advanced level. It's pretty nice, that customization. The new release that Lavanya was talking about is basically now Hugging Face and weights and biases are directly integrated. So weights and biases is part of the Hugging Face library. The way it works is really, really easy. Again, I put a link to the document page, but the way it works is really, really convenient. You do just pip install 1db. And if your weights and biases is installed and you did the login in the command line or in your Jupyter notebook or wherever, your data is automatically going to be logged. It's not entirely true yet because it's mainly on the PyTorch model, but so on TensorFlow model, it's not implemented yet, but it's probably going to happen soon. I'm going to show you really quickly how it works. Basically, Hugging Face, they refactored their entire code, made it much, much cleaner. And they have that class that's called trainer. And in that class, if I search for 1db, you can see basically the program only check, do you have 1db? And if it's installed, everything is going to happen automatically. Your metrics are going to be logged, your config parameters, your losses, and you will be able to see all the things you want. And you're going to see it in that example. So now let's go directly into the HuggingTweets. How does it work? So I have a repo. It's probably going to change really quickly. And the way it works is very, very simple. We're going to go through the code to understand a bit better the principle. Basically, you need to download the tweets for that. There's like a library that's pretty cool that integrates with the Twitter API. So you need to have a Twitter development account. Honestly, all that process takes maybe like 2-3 minutes, and you will have API keys. And once you have it, there's a cool library called Tweepy. And with that, you can just make some easy calls through Python to download all tweets and all. So here, what I do typically, I will put the name of a person I want their tweets. And then you iterate through it and you download it. Now there's a limit. You cannot download more than 3,200 tweets. Actually, if you try to play 3,200 tweets, sounds like a lot. It's really not a lot. It's not that much data. I mean, I'm really far from it, but, but some people are much, much beyond that. And you need to consider that in the tweets, there's like the retweets that are kind of useless. There's the ones that you just share a URL and they're useless as well. So there's a lot of data that's not that interesting. So all that function does is just downloading tweets. Then what we want to do, basically to create our data set, we're going to fine-tune our model based on GPT-2, which is the OpenAI model that was trained on a lot of text, but it obviously was not trained on Twitters. So it works better if the text is not too strange. So there's a few things that are problematic. For example, you have a lot of at to mention people. And what we do here to clean this up, we replace the at something like at Karpathy by the name of the person. So the text doesn't look as strange. Then we try to clean up the data. Also, we have a lot of hashtags. So imagine you're trying to predict some text, and the person says, here is my new paper, hashtag convnets, hashtag I love GANs. It's not really something that GPT-2 was trained on. So it really wouldn't work. So what we do is something we remove, something we change. There's a lot of improvement I can still do there, but the idea is you want your text to not look too strange, but you still want to train to have some predictions that look like tweets. So as you can see so far, like most of my work is really on creating the data set. And there's a lot of work there, and a lot of improvements I want to do are related to that. Like here, I try to remove all the retweets. I try to clean up the text. It's presented in some strange manner. Something also funny, like if I go on a Twitter too, so I start replacing the names of people, right? And let's say, for example, I have Jeremy Howard. And Jeremy Howard, I replaced it by his handle. It's Jeremy #mask4all Howard. That's not really convenient. So you need to be able to work with that. Another one, you know, I want to do Lavanya, right? She has a emoji in her name. So like, how do I train on that? It's not something that GPT-2 is trained on. So those things are things you need to clean up, and otherwise your model is not really going to work. So once I have all those tweets, I split training data, test data. All that so far, I only worked on cleaning the data sets, right? So then that's when it becomes interesting, training the model. So I just have to log in on my 1DB so that I have my run instrumented automatically. Here I have a variable just so that they are cleanly organized into my Hugging Face project. But here is what is cool. My training program is only that. I'm just using the script. I didn't write any single line of code. Their scripts are pretty nice. The main stuff I changed here, you see I say I'm on a GPT-2 model. So it's just going to download the pre-trained model. I say, where is my data? So I have like training set, validation set I saved. I just say I want to evaluate to have like validation loss, etc. How much I want to log to have enough points. The main parameter I changed was that one. I could train only one batch per GPU because otherwise I would run out of CUDA memory. And by the way, that can have an impact because by default, I think they have 8. I have only 1. So something I didn't try. Technically, I should maybe want to accumulate 8 batches before updating my weights. It could have some impact. I didn't test that yet. And then I trained on a lot of epochs. Basically, when I had my first runs, I saw that I start overfitting after 4 epochs. So typically, it's that for most of the people I used it on. So I just trained for 4 epochs. Then what you do, I want to test it. So I feed a few sentences. And then what is cool is it's the same way. I just run my generation model with a script from Hugging Face again, which is that script that is provided. So I didn't really write anything, you know, all the part that was related to having a pre-trained model, tokenizing, fine-tuning, running generation. I didn't have to think about that, which is pretty cool. And I got pretty interesting results. So here I'm gonna go quickly to my dashboard. And you can see like I have like predictions on a lot of different people. And here is my input, here is my output. And a lot of them are actually really funny. So I had actually a lot of fun running it. So some of the fun ones were obviously from Carpathy. Then there was like some other stuff like Lavanya, she uses a lot of emojis in her tweets, which is kind of funny. I have like some Hugging Face people like Julia. He has some Hugging Face emoji in his predictions, which is interesting. So you see, it's kind of learning something. And then I have like Jan Lecan talking that he likes French, or sometimes he starts speaking in French. So I have a cool one too. Just quickly, I want to show from Google. Where is that? Google AI. Okay, so Google AI talking about a new paper, right? CDMO and the VP blog. I like the title of that paper. A new algorithm that can simulate motion in NLP speech is being developed that solves the natural language recognition problem of developing computational models for motion-related content and experience. Wow, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds pretty interesting. I'd like to read that. That actually sounds like a real paper. I don't know if it could be actually something, but that's interesting to say that kind of prediction. And what I like to say that I didn't look that much, that's kind of strange to me, is like you have different losses based on the person, you see. So it's interesting to see where does that come from. Does it come from the data set? Does it come from maybe some people use more vocabulary than others? Or basically the higher your losses, the more unpredictable you are. So here you see like underscore pathy is the most unpredictable when you write something. Then you have people that are more predictable. Maybe the subject comes more often, or they use more often the same words. But you have also like interesting stuff. Like some people start low, but they don't decrease much. While some people start high, but they decrease really, really fast. So once the program has learned what people are talking about, it kind of trains much faster. So that's about it. Here I have like a lot of different ideas of things to try. You can see most of it is related to actually the data set. That's where I need to work on. The model and the text generation, I don't need to do anything because HuggingTweets does it for me. So it's pretty cool. Something that's kind of impressive that I liked is that my data set are really, really small. In the best case, I have 200 kilobytes, and sometimes I have less than 100. When I get 200, it's much, much better, but typically a good data set is at least 5 megabytes or much bigger. So it's like 20 times more. Some are like 100 times more. And you still get cool results. Something that I want to try too, I want to pre-train on the entire Twitter, so that basically I would have a model that learns how to make like tweet-like messages, and then basically you fine-tune on the person. So I think that would be a cool iteration to try. And the last thing I like too is that idea, which I think like between the top and bottom layers, some are more related to predicting the next word. So it's kind of more like memorization, while some are more related to understanding what the person is talking about. So for example, you train on the machine learning people, typically they all talk about AI. So it's like the lexical field. And I think that those kind of concepts are in different layers. And maybe if you train them differently, you will get some models that are better on memorization, or some that are more creative and that mainly learn the context and the subject. That's about it. Feel free to play with it. Honestly, I think there's a lot of things to see, and I'd love to see your results there. There's a lot of further things to try. I don't know if you have any questions. I saw my screen beeping a little bit.
Thanks, Boris. That was amazing. So we don't. Can people ask questions? We were having some technical issues, so we were trying to deal with those. Nothing related to you. You were perfect. But if people want to start asking questions, you can do that either in the Q&A or you can do it in the chat. And then Nick and Kayla, you can pull questions from the YouTube channel. So I see a question here. Someone asked, are there plans to support weights and biases logging of NLP tasks beyond the table format, specifically token tagging? I love this question. Currently, I'm writing something custom with HTML, but it would be nice to have it built in. So yes, we are working on that. I can share with you one report that we haven't made public, but if you would like to test it out and give us some feedback, you can log attention maps, NER, so named entity recognition stuff, part of speech tagging graphs, and there's a bunch of other cool stuff in there. We also have built-in support for LIME's ELI 5 predictions, and all of that stuff you can find in this report right here. But if you're looking for something specific, please let us know, like either DM me or something.
And actually, just to add on that, the tables, they're not logged directly by the integration. Right now, maybe they would be later if it's something that everybody wants to do. But what is done automatically are all the metrics and all the epochs and all. That, I just decided to add it myself, and it's pretty easy. You go to if you go to the documentation, you have like a logging page, and you can log all kind of objects. And I just went here, I went to log text tables, and you just have a specific format, and I added another. And same if you want to log HTML, you already have some functions you can use, and you can add your own. So you have all kind of objects that can be added.
Boris, I was wondering if we could get a few more example tweets from your Lavanya tweet bot. I'm just kind of curious
Yeah.
what we got there.
So let's go through here quickly. I'm going to go through this one quickly. So,
and then also maybe we can do Lucas next.
Lucas, yeah. So I have a lot of people. I had way too much fun. So I need to scroll it. Okay, Lavanya, right? So you see some emojis appearing. And I'll give you that link. They're really, really fun. So you see, like Lavanya, she wants to create a collection of fiction scripts for women. So I learned a lot of stuff from Lavanya without having to read all her tweets history, which is pretty cool. Something funny too, actually. Let me show you quickly Elon Musk. Something I didn't know about him is, where is that?
Because we're taking this as facts now, whatever this guy's tweeting, whatever you want, is that how they
Oh no, Jack Clark, sorry, wrong one. Where is, oh here. He wants, he had the cool one. He has one that he wants to create a solar electric car, which is pretty interesting. So
also, I'm gonna pop a link to Boris's GitHub repo, so you can actually plug in your own Twitter account or someone else's Twitter account and actually create these and have fun with your friends.
yeah, and you can open like at the bottom you will have a link to the dashboard, so you can read all the sentences. I think some are great, some are so-so, but what I like is like just the first version, first iteration. There's so many things to improve, and I think it's gonna get like much better from there. Actually, for Lucas I had trouble in having nice generation because I don't know. I need to look more at his Twitter account. I think he must be talking about too many random subjects. One thing though is always so positive. I think that's really good. I think that is great fun. I want to help, and I imagine it's really Lucas. It's really the way he talks. So it's kind of fun.
And then I have a question, Boris. You mentioned to me earlier, like you spent most of the time on data, not on fine-tuning the model itself. Could you talk about why you spent most of your time on the data?
Yeah, so in most of the projects I've done so far, when I started like learning, you always spend all your time on fine-tuning and should I add more layers or should I try another model and all. And in the end, like typically just use a model that's famous and that works for your task. So for example, I want to do text generation, just use GPT-2. Don't try to change the model. GPT-2 is good for that. You won't get a better model than OpenAI easily. And they have like default parameters that just worked. But when you have a better data set, you get quickly results really fast. Your model improves. It's a better investment of your time, I think. So typically, I start improving the model when I have no more idea. But the data set is really good. Yeah, I still have too many, so I'm not going to change the model for a while. But feel free to change it, and maybe you'll get cool stuff. So that will be interesting.
Thanks. Can you share the link for the Slack channel? Yes, Kayla, could you share the link? And then also Boris is going to be in that Slack channel so if you want to pop in tomorrow, day after this weekend to ask him questions, we'd be happy to answer your questions. Yeah. And also the integration is officially launching tomorrow. There's a lot more examples on fine-tuning, running hyperparameter optimization through HuggingTweets that are coming tomorrow. So watch out. I'll tweet about them and we'll also post them in the Slack so you can check them out. But yeah, thank you, Boris. That was really fun.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun.